Right, Gavin Cooney of the 42 is with us this morning. Gavin, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning.
So, what do you expect tonight?
What do I expect tonight? I think Ireland will win, in fairness. I know we can't ever be too confident about these games against low blocks and lower ranked oppositions, but surely. I'm going to say surely we can't lose to Armenia, but then I do have to add the word again.
Yeah. You know, it's the home games. We're always good at home. Well, at least when there's a crowd, we're always good at home, right? Are we? That's not true either. There's nothing true about this that we can kind of reliably pin our expectations on, is that frequently we've had really good away from home performances, and then they've been followed up with an after the Lord Mayor show style letdown. And that's desperately what we're trying to avoid this week, so that there's, again, something that we can point to. Okay, they've done this, and then they've followed it up with something better, or they've discovered a style of play that they think they're going to be able to consistently implement, and then they've backed that up by doing the same thing again and again and again and again. And if they were to play the way they did in the first half against Scotland, I think they're going to win the game convincingly tonight.
But the problem is they probably won't be able to play like they played in the first half against Scotland, because it's a different type of game. That inconsistency that you talk about is a kind of consistency, in the sense that Kenny has turned this Ireland team into a very good counter-attacking side in games in which they have the minority possession. But at home, when they're the protagonist, or away against like lower-ranked sides like Armenia, when they're the protagonist and they're given the ball, they really struggle to break things down. Like, of the 20 competitive games that Kenny has had, 9 of them have been games in which Ireland have had more than 50% possession, and they've only won 1 of those. So they have always struggled in that sense, and like this isn't a new story with Stephen Kenny's Ireland. It's been going on for generations. I think it's been going on for all my life. But like the whole Kenny thing was, this would change. You know, we would evolve into a style of play that would help us break these teams down. So that's what they have to prove tonight. You know, I thought Scotland's performance was really good. It was quite good. First half was really good. I think they faded in the second half when Scotland upped the tempo a little bit, but they just have to bring that tempo into this game and prove that they can break down one of these lower ranked sides, because otherwise it'll be a dicey couple of days afterwards.
Like, is it a worrying trend, Gav, that you're looking at games like Serbia, Portugal, Scotland, where Ireland take the lead in a game and just can't close it out? Now, obviously those 3 particular opposition are maybe a level above Armenia, but like, even Dan McDonald was writing about the fact that that was sort of a trend with Stephen when he was even at Dundalk, maybe taking the lead in games and not closing them out. Is it a bit early to be getting concerned about something like that?
No, absolutely be concerned about it, because it's undermining Ireland, and it means they're not getting the results. Like 3 wins in 20 competitive games is fairly abysmal. Now, there has been really weird consistency within that as well. All the competitive wins have been by 3 goals. All the competitive defeats have been by 1 goal. And then you can call the Slovakia defeat on penalties a draw or defeat, whichever way you want. So it is a concern. It was a really interesting discussion that you referenced last night between Dan and Joe Malloy on the evening show. And it was really interesting. And I was thinking about it and when it comes to in-game management. And like Ireland under Kenny, I think the best word that sums them up is methodical. Like, there is this perception among some people that they're playing, you know, football like 1970s Brazil. They don't. It's not just kick and rush, but they do mix it up, and they are quite pragmatic. But everything is really methodical. They defend in a methodical way. They attack in a methodical way. Everyone knows their roles, and they look really well coached. And you can see just the sheer amount of work that Kenny and Keith Andrews and the rest of his coaches put into preparing teams. So generally, I have to say, they usually get their team selections from the off, and their formations, they generally get them right. But there is a question as to how they respond in games when games change and it needs something different. I mean, the subs at Hampden Park didn't work, really. I could understand why he brought on Ogbene, but I don't think replacing Obafemi was the right call. I think Parrott, on reflection, was the player to replace there. He obviously made, a triple sub after 75 minutes. I don't think any of them really made much of an impact. Obviously, Alan Bryan gave away the penalty. Coleman, I thought, struggled to get to the pitch of the game. Robinson did nothing. And then Robbie Brady came on late and didn't have too much time to affect the game. So that's the question. And sometimes I think that they put so much thought into the plan, the pre-game plan, and it's generally right, in fairness. Like, I mean, we've criticised previous Ireland managers for not having a plan, so I don't want to come on and criticise this Ireland management team for having a plan, but they're often too slow to change it when it's not working. I mean, I was just looking back at my notes before I came in here. I think only twice in competitive games have Ireland changed formation during a game. They did it they brought Alan Brown on to go to a 4-1-4-1, I think, in the playoff against Slovakia. And they took Adamida off and put Jason Knight on in the game away to Luxembourg. Went to a 3-4-2-1 from a 3-5-2, and that made a big difference, actually. That was 0-0 when Ida come off. Knight made a big difference, and then it goes to 3-0. But too often, we haven't seen those changes. Like the home game against Luxembourg was an example. That just wasn't working at all, but the system didn't change. I mean, Kieran Clark had a nightmare. He eventually got taken off, but I think Enda Stevens was put on at left centre-back, and the system didn't change. So I'm just wondering... It's a long-winded answer, Shane, I'm sorry, but I'm wondering if that kind of inflexibility in-game partly contributes to these narrow defeats.
They expended so much energy as well on Saturday. Like, and you're hearing Stephen Kenny after the match kind of saying he's not going to make wholesale changes, but like, do you not have to go to the old reliables like your Coleman or Duffy?
No.
Why? But why not?
Why would you go to Duffy?
Well,
what did the 3 centre-backs do that was wrong?
No, that they played well, but I mean,
no,
they have to be tired after a game like that on the weekend.
No,
there has to be tired legs. Matt Doherty looked leggy in the second half.
I don't think any of the 3 centre-backs would be tired.
No, he won't change it, but I mean, the fact that he's only saying
you start with
one or
Matt
two
Doherty
changes.
again. Like, you got to get the football into Doherty. Like,
I think Doherty's too important a player to drop. I'd be amazed. I'd be amazed if I would be really surprised. And the alternative is Coleman, who hasn't been playing at club level either.
That's the thing.
So he'll be more rusty than Doherty if you bring him in.
What's the story? So I think one of the probable teams has McClean out and Robbie Brady in at left wing back. Is that a possibility?
I think it probably is. I kind of picked my team this morning. I went with Brady. It's exceptionally hard to drop James McClean, I have to say. He's been playing well. I thought he was very good in Scotland. The quality of his crossing has massively improved under Kenny in the last little while. I think, again, because there's something slightly more methodical in it. He doesn't always just charge to the touchline and swing in across now with his head down. He picks his head up and he often cuts back in on his right foot to aim for the back post. So it would be harsh to drop him, but Kenny loves Robbie Brady, and he might offer that extra little bit of craft in this game. The other changes, like Josh Cullen is suspended, unfortunately, which is a big miss for Ireland. I mean, we haven't had to play without Josh Cullen very often. So he'll come in. Maybe Jeff Hendrick probably is the most likely. He may want to introduce another forward player for a sitting midfielder, and maybe Callum O'Dowda, who's another Kenny favourite who we haven't seen play for Ireland in almost 2 years. But again, he's quite a creative force, and he can actually beat a guy and open up something against a low block side that Ireland really didn't have in the game in Yerevan in June. Other than that, I mean, do you change the strikers?
Troy Parrott, I mean...
I don't. I think you stick with them.
Stick with him? Yeah, well, he needs confidence. He needs game time.
Are you drop him or you're not shattering
confidence?
What's left
totally.
Of his confidence?
Yeah, but how long do you give him, I guess, is the question. Because even the first touch... It wasn't just the missed chance when Obafemi gave the ball across. It was the touches before the chance. He just didn't look like a man confident. Now, maybe the argument there is, you play him.
Okay, he was offside, but he looked so confident scoring the offside goal.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe he knew he was offside, though.
I don't know. He definitely did a good job of looking really shocked when he looked back at the linesman when the flag went up. But
a lifetime of honing that look. Oh, what? No.
But who you like? I mean, I think Obafemi and Parrott should play again together because they seem to have the makings of a good partnership. So I would keep that for as long as you can, just to work on it. Ogbene is probably the next man up. But is this a game for Ogbene? Like, there'll be no space in behind. I think it was Ogbene and Robinson played in Yerevan, and
is there a world in which I mean, they said they don't see him as a right wing back because he's never played there for us, but that he could play right wing back and you could try Doherty on the left. I mean, like, Doherty on the left is not the worst thing to experiment with a little bit before the Euros, because it turns out we've loads of right backs. And we'll always have right backs for whatever reason. Right backs, rowers, and number 7s in rugby. That's our national prototype. And if we could turn him into a left wing back who was influencing the game in like one of those Manchester City left backs, that wouldn't be the worst thing for us, would it?
No, and Doherty played left wing back in Portugal and was great.
Pretty good, but he couldn't do it against Gibraltar. Remember that first half?
Yeah, whatever. Let's not relitigate that because I just really don't want to go there. Yeah, I mean, that's quite possible. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, Kenny has always been quite firm that they don't see Ogbene as a right wing back, but yeah, it's something to consider. Obviously, Ogbene isn't playing there at club level anymore. He's gone back to being a forward at Rotherham. can't see it happening. But it's a good idea, Ger.
There you go. That's what people come to OTB AM for every day.
The good ideas. We're
Give it away for nothing.
We're going to get hit, and I'm going to get hit for pushing this, but Jeff Hendrick, and I know the lads spoke about him last night as well, Gav, but is he someone maybe that could be turned to a bit more often? I know with Cullen being suspended, maybe the opportunity is there tonight for a bit more game time for him, but there is a section, as Dan McDonald said last night, of Irish fans that just don't want to see Jeff anywhere near the team.
Yeah, I would imagine that he's probably the favourite to come into the team ahead of Josh Cullen. Like, Hendrick was a real firm Kenny favourite up until the midway point of the June window, and then he got dropped. You know, they added another midfielder, and actually they took him out. So they added 2 new midfielders and took him out. So I would imagine that, I would say there's a good chance that he comes in. And in fairness to Hendrick, like, his passing range in relatively tight spaces is probably the best in Ireland's midfield. Like, Ireland's midfield it's the weakest department of the team. But you'd imagine, like, who can slip those little through balls through against a side that'll sit deep as Armenia. I think Hendrick is as good an option as anyone. I wouldn't play him. I wouldn't sit him deep like in the Josh Cullen role. I would probably drop Knight or Malumbi there and push Hendrick on to play as one of the more attacking number 8s, which is where he's been playing for Reading in a back 3 with wing backs around him as well, which is probably a good thing for Ireland. So I would guess. I'm only guessing that probably we'll see Hendrick start tonight.
He could do with a big game for us.
He could. I mean, he like you referenced it. Like, he's not got a good standing among Irish fans. No. And I think it's OTT. Some of the criticism he gets is OTT, but at the same time, too often he kind of coasts through games, and it hasn't happened as often under Kenny. There are times when he just didn't go looking for the ball when he should have. You know, he hid in midfield. I think Kenny has kind of knocked that out of him a bit. And Hendrick was really good. I remember him being really good in the 4-0 win at home to Qatar. He's linked well with Doherty on the right as well. And yeah, I think that he obviously needs a good performance to get in the team. Like, I mean, this is the other thing, that there's now competition for places in midfield, whereas once he was an automatic pick and didn't have to worry too much about who was breathing down his neck. Now he's not in the team, and if he doesn't perform, he won't be picked. You know, one of the young guys will be picked ahead of him. So he needs to perform to justify his place in the team, and if he gets it, well, he'll at least be motivated to do so. It's
reported in one of the papers that if they lose tonight, he's gone. That's like just a bare fact in the middle of a piece. I think that's bananas, to be honest. I can't see the FAI taking on the whole difficulty of a recruitment process while they still don't have a sponsor for the men's team. Now, you could argue that it would be a great distraction from the fact that the board has so far failed to attract a sponsor, because, you know, it's the collective cabinet responsibility when it comes to stuff as big as that. Is that like, I mean, you know, if we lose 1-0, if we lose 4-0, things are different. But surely this isn't actually you must win this game or your job is gone.
I would be surprised if he did. I would be very surprised if he didn't get the Euros campaign regardless, just because for all the reasons that you just mentioned. But there will be pressure. I mean, there, like, 12 people around the board and around the table in the boardroom and the FAI, they're not all a unanimous voice, which is a good thing. You know, I mean, the unanimous voice was the previous regime, so it was only really one person's opinion that really mattered. So it's good that there are kind of dissenting voices around that boardroom table. And there would be differing views on Stephen Kenny, as you would imagine. Like, there would be differing views on everyone. Obviously, the FAI backed him with the contract. I would be very surprised if they didn't get it. But if they're to lose to Armenia, all that noise comes back, and there is a lot of pressure. Again, I'd be really surprised for all the reasons that you'd mentioned, but you couldn't. I don't think you could 100% rule it out. I mean, it would have to be. They would have to give it some consideration, because it would be. You know, before the draw was made, Stephen Kenny talked about topping the group. And if we get relegated from it, like down to League C, it probably extinguishes hopes of getting a playoff to the Euros. I mean, try, if you're the FAI, try selling tickets to a UEFA Nations League C game whenever that comes around. Yeah. Like, there will absolutely be pressure on it, and there will be noise. And they lose to Armenia at home, and like, it was bad enough. It was careless to lose to Armenia away. But now Ireland, like, at least there was some mitigation in that, in the sense that there were 5 weeks after. Some players played 5 weeks after their club season ended, and they clung to it ring rust on the pitch. They don't have that excuse tonight. And Armenia are in rag order coming here. Yeah. Like, I mean,
There was a controversy at the press conference.
So the local Armenian journalists boycotted it. They didn't ask a question and said, we're not asking a question. We just simply want you, head coach, to resign. Which is, I mean, Stephen Kenny may be hurt by the criticism from Damien Delaney and others in recent days, but he can comfort himself that we are at least still turning up to his press conferences.
Yeah.
If that is a cold comfort to him, I'm not really sure that it is.
Give us your prediction.
Ireland 3, Armenia 0.
All right. We would take that at this stage.
Yeah,
Gavin, good stuff. Gavin Cooney from the 42. Thanks very much for